century when they wrote the Constitution. It'd be hard to make some of this stuff up. But the governor's candidate, only 2 points or 3 points behind in Colorado against one of the best mayors in America, a Democrat, said that this guy's literally within 5 points in the governor's race, said that President Obama had taken Christmas out of the White House because he was a Muslim. This guy's 5 points behind. They showed him a picture of the White House Christmas tree. And he said, see, I told you, look at all those hidden Muslim symbols in the Christmas tree. Now, you can laugh about this, but that's not what this election is about. This is a contest of ideas, the latest battle in a 30-year-old debate. The Republican Party took a real veer away from traditional conservatism 30 years ago. A conservative 30 years ago could support this college. A conservative 30 years ago was a person who believed in living with our means, never running a deficit except when there was a horrible recession and you had to create demand, letting the state and local governments do whatever they could before the federal government took up a cause, and having the federal government only get into something if it clearly couldn't be done by the private sector, state and local government. Those kind of conservatives were like Dwight Eisenhower, who built the interstate highway system. Even Richard Nixon signed a bill creating the Environmental Protection Agency, the Occupational Safety and Health Agency. The new conservatives tell you that the source of every problem America ever had was the government. And if you just get rid of government and cut taxes, especially for the wealthiest people and the most powerful special interests, they will shower all the rest of us with benefits and trickle-down economics. And nobody ever talks about the evidence. But let's just start with this. From the end of World War II to 1980, the bottom 90% of Americans held fast at 64 to 65% of America's income. The top 1% had 9% of America's income. It was unequal, but manageable. In the last 30 years, the percentage the bottom 90% has dropped from 65 to 52, and the percentage the top 1% has gone from 9 to 22. This is not rocket science. They tried an experiment. It didn't work. Why do people keep voting for it? Because they have engendered this visceral distrust of anything that has government on it, and they got a lot of money to back their ideas. You have to decide, it's your future, whether it's worth it. So where are we under President Obama? Here's where we are. After this calamitous collapse, which bottomed out in roughly July 1st, 2009, the U.S. has recovered 70% of our lost income, our GDP. How's the competition doing? Germany 60%, Japan 50%, United Kingdom 30%. Not cause for applause, but it ought to give you pause before you go back to what got us in the hole in the first place. What do we do now? We need jobs, and we need to make sure people have the education and training to do the jobs. Okay, so Congressman Bishop here has supported a whole range of programs. Some have passed, some are pending, in the areas where we can grow jobs. Where can we grow jobs? Clean energy, manufacturing, small business, high technology, infrastructure. That's our future. That will generate jobs throughout the economy. So they provided 30% tax credit if you bring manufacturing here, especially in green energy. Big tax credits and loan guarantees for new technologies in energy and for small business to get banks to lend again to them. Is it working? People don't feel it yet, but consider this. On the day the President took the oath of office, we had exactly 2% of the world market for these high-powered batteries that make electric cars and hybrid cars. Today we have 20% in 30 new factories. 30 that are being built in the United States. 20. By 2014, we'll have 40%. In Nevada, the state in the country with the highest unemployment rate, in the last month, 2 Chinese companies, that's right, Chinese companies have announced they are moving factories to Nevada to make wind turbines and LED lights, 4,500 jobs. Why? Why? Because they say, yeah, you know, the labor costs are different, but that's not much of manufacturing anymore. And the American tax credits enacted by this congressman were cited specifically as the reason we were competitive for building a green energy future in the United States. Vehicles, the other makes all electric cars, moved all the jobs to America, just sold 1,000 cars to Denmark from America. Why? Because it is now economical. We can do this. So that's his position. There's some evidence to support it's a good position. It's the one I agree with. I tried to give you a 21st century economy. What's the Republican position? None of this stuff amounts to a hill of beans. It's all just background music. The only thing that matters is making permanent the temporary tax cuts of the Bush administration, including for millionaires and billionaires. Now, if you give everybody that made $1 million or more a year taxable, which means they had more income, and I love saying this because I'm in that group and I never had any money before I got out of the White House. If you give us a tax cut, it costs $600 billion on the debt, and you get about 5 cents of economic benefit over and above every dollar you give us in tax cut. On the other hand, if you spend it on small business, green energy, or even feeding hungry children, you get $9 of benefit for every $5 in tax cut or investment. This is not close. If you want, so the congressman's opponent wants to make those tax cuts permanent for everybody who already have increased their percentage of our income from 9 to 22%. I just explained that. And he thinks that global warming is not caused by people. It's a totally natural phenomenon, and it's a waste of money to do all this clean energy stuff. All I can tell you is, folks, the people that are leading the race for a clean energy future had lower unemployment rates, higher incomes, and more job and business growth than the United States before the meltdown because they decided to change the way they produce and consume energy. This is not a close question. If you want a good economy, you got to vote for Tim Bishop for Congress. In your future, there are 3 million job openings in America today that have been vacant for more than a month, because the people who have applied for the jobs haven't been trained to do them. There was a big cutback in training. Now he's voted to increase the training. We should be able to give every state in America a list of every job that's been vacant for more than a month and the money to train people for those jobs. What do the Republicans want to do? Their budget, in their pledge, says they're going to increase defense, they're going to increase Medicare because they want to privatize it and give it to the insurance companies, and they're going to have huge tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans, and they're going to make up for it by cutting $100 billion out of everything else. That is a minimum of 25% cuts across the board in education. So if you want to train people to those jobs and lower the unemployment rate 2% right now, you got to vote for Tim Bishop. That's what this is about. That's what this election is about. Now, you heard what he said about the student loan program. It saves $60 billion, $20 billion went to the debt, $40 billion went to increase Pell Grants and other supports for students. But the best part of it, he didn't tell you, I think, it revolutionizes the way student loans work. You get the loan direct from the national government through the school here. You'll pay less interest on it because you're getting it direct. Most important, for the first time in the history of America, every single solitary student who has a student loan now will have the legal right to pay the loan back for up to 20 years as a fixed small percent of income. Listen, I want you to listen, never more than 10%, and if you decide to become a teacher, a police officer, a nurse, something else where your salary is not too high in the beginning, it can be less than 10%, but it will be fixed. Think about what this means. No one will ever have to drop out of college again.